Back here, just rearrange the furniture a little bit here. See, when you come here enough, you feel like you're not a guest. You can rearrange furniture and everything. So good morning. Good to see everyone here. Got to just take everyone in. See like new Facebook friends, you look out in the audience, there's people, this person just friended me on Facebook. Wow, what a joy it is to be here and building our house on solid ground. That was inspired by a scripture, a Psalm 127, that says, "Except the Lord build a house, they labor in vain that build it." And Ricky Byers, who we all probably know, wrote a song about that. I think her song is called "They Labor in Vain," but it really calls upon that scripture and building our house, building our life on solid ground, building our life on a spiritual foundation. What is that about? What is that about? Building our life on a spiritual foundation. Speaking of Ricky Byers, she's at Agape, and there was a story I heard. Agape uses the spiritual practice called visioning. Everything they do is grounded in visioning. This practice of surrendering into what is God's highest idea. If they're going to take on a project, they're going to take on a new thing, what is the divine highest idea that wants to unfold here, that wants to be known through me here, that wants to express through me here? Like they do that with everything they do. And there's a story that they were going to build a school, that two women had an idea to create a school, like a science of mind school, where the kids would not only learn the ABCs and math, but they would learn science of mind right from the beginning in school. And so they did all the planning and they ventured out, but they didn't vision this time. For somehow that slipped by the wayside, and they went ahead and they did all the planning, and there was opening day, and there were two children. One child was one woman's child, and the other child was the other woman's child. And it was a great learning from what I hear in the story of course, like we vision for everything. There's a reason why we go within first, why we check within. We ask, what is God's highest vision? We don't just go with our smaller mind, our human self. So that's where we're going today, building our life on a spiritual foundation. There's also a scripture in Matthew chapter 7, verses 24 to 27, that essentially says, this is Jesus speaking, saying that he's likening a person who builds their house on a rock as a wise person. They built their house on a rock, and the storms came, and the floods came, and the winds blew against the house, but the house still stood because it was built on rock. And then he likens a person who builds their house on sand to being a foolish man, building his house on sand, and the winds come, and the rains come, and the floods come, and the house falls because it was not built on solid ground. And that reminded me of when I first moved. I lived in San Francisco in the Bay Area for a really long time, and this idea reminded me of when 3 months after I got there, I was in heaven, like San Francisco, it's this amazing place. I'm in heaven, and literally 3 months after I got there was the Loma Prieta earthquake. Biggest earthquake since 1906. So my whole, utopia idea was like, And so I started to learn about earthquakes and like where you should not, build your home, right? So everything that they're listing, you're like, well, if you're on landfill, because the city filled in certain areas with landfill for like the 1964 World Fair or something like that, that would not be good. I look at the map, and there's my place. There's the apartment I had right on the landfill. And they're like, and if your house is concrete, that's not good either, because it really needs to give in the earthquake. I'm like, my place is concrete. So I was not on solid ground, apparently, from a physical point of view. But what is this like to build our life on a spiritual foundation? Well, in Science of Mind teaching, building our house on a spiritual foundation really is a number of things. One is building our house on spiritual principles and truth. Like oneness, that we're all one. Like wholeness, that we're already whole, perfect, and complete. We have everything that we need. And like infinite creativity, that we have the power to create our life. I've been teaching this class, and Jay knows about this. I've been teaching this class called Conscious Loving. And one of the concepts in this class is that we take 100% responsibility for our experience in our relationships. It's kind of a radical concept that we take 100%. Not like 50. Right. Let me take a drink of water on that one. And it doesn't say 50-50. Like I'll take 50% and my partner takes 50%. It says I take 100% responsibility for my experience, for what I'm creating in this relationship. And the partner also, if they're stepping into this conscious loving, takes 100% for what they're creating. So it doesn't leave any wiggle room to project, right? To say, well, that wasn't mine, that was yours. That's your fault, and you're pointing it out here. It's like, no, I am creating my experience. And it doesn't mean in a codependent way that I take responsibility for your experience. I'm just taking responsibility for my experience, right? So this idea of creativity, that we are powerfully creative, we are creating our lives, is a huge part of this spiritual foundation. That my life isn't just happening to me. I'm not a victim. I'm not just being tossed around by the seas of life. That I have some dominion in my life. That I can speak my word. Which takes us into what is the affirmations are one of the tools that we use in Science of Mind to build our house, to build our life on a spiritual foundation. Now, I've overheard, I spend a lot of time in coffee shops. I just like coffee shops. If I'm doing my talk, sometimes I'll be sitting in a coffee shop, right? And I'll just have my iPad, and I'll just be, kicking back in a coffee shop. I've always loved coffee shops. I think it was since I took a trip to Paris years ago, it's just like, and then I moved to San Francisco, and it was the same thing, and ever since then, I love coffee shops. And you get to overhear. Coffee shops, the tables are really close together, right? So you get to overhear a lot of things. And I overheard some people talking one day, and they're like, oh, yeah, there's these foolish people that believe in affirmations. Of course, they don't work. Affirmations don't work. But there's really a lot of misunderstanding around affirmations. Like, yeah, if you just say, like, I am powerful. I am pieces in me. Yeah. If you just say some words, that's not an affirmation. That's just saying some words. But if we, in doing our affirmations, I know that now Elizabeth shared with me that she was in a play that I actually saw some years ago in Denver. And as an actor, you get into the character, right? You become that character. And that's kind of what affirmations are. Affirmations are, you're not just speaking some words, you are getting into the feeling tone and the vibration of those words so that you literally become that which you are saying in your affirmation. So when you're saying, I am powerful, at first you might say, I am powerful, or whatever would be the opposite. I don't know if I did a good version of that. Maybe I just sounded like someone with a high voice. Was that good? Okay, thank you. Karen thinks it was good. But at first, we might not feel powerful when we first start to say it. But when we begin to say it and get into what would that feel like to be powerful? What would that feel like? And we start to feel that in our being, what it would feel like to be powerful. And now we're stepping into what's an affirmation. Now we're stepping into the feeling tone, the vibration of that, so that we become that. We become something different. That is one of the tools of building our life on a spiritual foundation. And then science of mind, prayer is really big in science of mind. Prayer is like what we were founded on, right? Like Ernest Holmes, our founder of Science of Mind, said, there's no one that believes in the power of prayer more than we do. That is like the cornerstone of this teaching, something we call spiritual mind treatment, otherwise known as affirmative prayer. And when we teach, how many of you have taken the Science of Mind Foundation class? A lot of you, yes. And so when we're teaching prayer, we're teaching spiritual mind treatment, people will say, did I do it right? Because there's 5 steps, there's a certain way to do it, there's a method, there's a process, and it's very important that there is, right? The mind needs some way to get a grip on it, right? What am I doing here? But it's very interesting. We'll say like, well, did I do it right? Did I do it right? And the real answer is not about whether you followed the 5 steps or not. The real answer is not about whether the words were nice and flowery. Like, some of us as ministers and practitioners, we can really pray, right? We can pray and they go, I want to pray like you. Wow. The words are flowery and they're just flowing and all that. And sometimes we lose the essence of what this type of prayer really is. And so when I am in community, regardless of whether someone has ever taken the foundation class or not, or regardless of whether anyone knows what the 5 steps of spiritual mind treatment are or not, I will still invite someone to pray. And I'll go, well, I don't know how to pray. I haven't been taught. And I'll go, well, can you change your mind? Can you have a movement in consciousness? This is what spiritual mind treatment is. It's a movement in consciousness. It means I'm looking at the situation in one way right now, and can I change my mind, and can I start to look at the situation in a new way? Can I begin to embrace a higher truth about the situation? And can I begin to affirm that that is real right now? Not, please, please, can I have a change in my life? But right now, I accept something greater. And I no longer accept that this situation has power over me. I no longer accept that this situation has power over me. To do that, we have to this oneness thing. We go back to this first principle that I talked about. Oneness, that I am one with all power, all intelligence, all love, and this idea of wholeness, that I am perfect as I am, and I am a representation, I'm a divine emanation of the one power and presence that is God. Coming from that foundation, we begin to realize that my word is the word of the divine. I'm not separate from that one power and presence. My word is the word of the divine. We have to get that to build our house on a spiritual foundation. To build our life on a spiritual foundation, we have to get that my word has power. My decisions have power. If I decide today that my life is changing, my life is shifting, yes, I might have 50 years, 40 years, 30 years. Let's go back a little. History of this and this and this. This is the history. It's all there. I can prove to you that my life can't be any better. I can prove it to you. I got all the facts, right? Oh, yeah. Yeah, I got a funny look here. She's like, what? I can prove to you, if I want to argue for my limitations, if I choose to argue for my limitations, I got all the evidence. If I choose to argue for my limitations, I got all the evidence of areas of life that, while I've never done better than this in this area of life, I got all the evidence if I want to argue for my limitations. But I've got some greater evidence, because I've got this great evidence that my word has power. And that if I choose today that from now on, it's going to be different. It's the beginning of a huge change. We have to accept that our word has power. We have to accept that we're powerful. Marianne Williamson, I think there was a quote earlier from Marianne Williamson. was famously quoted by Nelson Mandela as saying that our greatest fear is not that we're powerless. Our greatest fear is that we're powerful beyond measure. That's our greatest fear. When people learn this prayer kind of thing and they speak their word and bam, something happens, scares the heck out of them sometimes, right? They speak their word. They say, I want a new relationship. And they speak their word and a new relationship comes up and they're like, whoa. A lot of us have a negative connotation of power. We think power is something negative because we've seen people abuse power. But power is pretty neutral. Power is the ability to bring something about. It's creativity, the ability to bring something about that doesn't exist, the ability to get our needs met, the ability to be creative in our world. We have a lot of choice in life, but we don't really have the choice to not be powerful. You can't make that choice even if you want to. You are so powerful, and you can use that power destructively for yourself, right? You can say, look what I've created. How could you say I'm powerful? Look at the things I've created. I've created a huge mess in my life. How could you say I'm powerful? Well, you were darn powerful to create that mess. Not everyone could create a mess like that. That was a pretty darn good mess you created there. When I was in graduate school, we had a guest speaker who wrote a book, How to Lose $100 Million. And that's a powerful man. Not everyone can lose $100 million, right? He lost $100 million. There's a lot you learn from losing $100 million. It was a business program. I was in an MBA program. He came to teach us. There's a lot you learn when you lose $100 million. That's a powerful person that could lose $100 million. Right? We're powerful. We're so powerful. Ernest Holmes said that every objective evidence contrary to good should be resolutely denied, and in its place should come a sense of right action. One should this small print here is getting smaller and smaller by the day. I have reading glasses in my pocket. I refuse to bring them out. One should feel a unity of spirit in all people and running through all events. They should declare that the spirit within them is God, quickening into right action everything they touch, bringing the best and of all of their experience and forever guiding and sustaining. The greatest good which their mind is able to conceive should be affirmed as a part of their everyday experience. The greatest good that we can conceive should be affirmed as a part of our everyday experience. Like, what greater idea can we catch and then begin to live from there instead of from the doubts or the fears or the sense that it's not possible, that we live our life moment by moment putting forth this greater idea that my word has power, that my thoughts have power, that what I align with vibrationally has power. Building our life on a spiritual foundation. So these are all these practices. I mentioned there's meditation, which really takes us into that divine connection. Like, how can we know oneness unless we take some time each day? It could be a minute. There you go. Everyone who had an excuse about not meditating, your excuse is gone. Because I just said it could take 1 minute. There's not a person in here who can argue with me that they couldn't find 1 minute a day. If you are, you're really arguing hard for your limitations. But sometime every day, 1 minute, 5 minutes, 15, 20, whatever it is, sometime every day where you sit in the stillness and just contemplate and get in touch with the presence of the divine right where you are. Even if you don't feel it immediately, to just know that you are divine, and let me just spend some time every day getting still and recognizing that. Communing with my divine nature. Listening in if you will. Because our divine nature is always speaking to us, always. At the soul level of us is always speaking to us. Our higher nature is always speaking to us and guiding us through our life before we even have, at a human level, the awareness and the consciousness to know that it's going on. How do you think we all got this far with sometimes not even being aware, right? How did we get this far? We got this far because we're constantly being guided, even when we don't even know we're being guided. And sometimes, even when we are being guided, like for me, I'm always listening in. I'm always being guided. I'm always feeling into situations, feeling into my next step of what I should take. But then what about when there's a blind spot? Anyone ever have a blind spot where you're just not aware, you're not paying attention? I had one recently, and it's so interesting. I had this situation, it was in the realm of relationship. And it's very interesting because here I am in the realm of relationship. And in the realm of relationship, for me, I've always had these, which I'm letting go of now, by the way, but I've always had these ideas of what should be. Like if I meet a nice person, I should want to be with that person, right? If they're a really nice person, there should be no reason why I don't want to be with this person. So if I get involved and it's a nice person, there's no reason for me not to be there, even if it doesn't feel like there's a fit. It's like, it's a nice person. I should like them. Why wouldn't I like this person? Why wouldn't I love this person? It's a nice person. And so I was getting this visceral feeling in this relationship. I was getting this visceral, whole body feeling of like, stop. And my mind was saying like, no, look at this person here. This is a beautiful, wonderful person, right? And I kept saying even out loud, it's like a visceral feeling. I don't know what it is that's stopping me. It's like a visceral feeling. And then my leg, the right leg, which if you look at like Louise Hay or people that like correlate the body with like what's going on, because the things that go on in the body aren't just by accident. There's the correlation here in terms of what's going on. Ernest Holmes would tell us that most disease, most illness is mental and spiritual. And so if we have a shift mentally and spiritually, we heal the physical condition. Well, my right leg, which represents taking steps forward, really began to hurt. And there was like something I had done, but then it was like for several months. My right leg is just hurting. And recently, my funny thought about it, and coming to full clarity now, my funny point about it was like, it was almost like, the metaphor would almost be like, my right leg is hurting bad. And I'm like, that's okay, I can just drag it along, no worries. That's all right, I'll just drag that leg along. So sometimes, even though we're constantly getting divine guidance from our higher wisdom, we can overrule it with our lower nature. That part of us that just wants to be in control. That part of us that thinks things ought to be a certain way. Right? So we're constantly getting guidance. Visioning, we've talked about. And then spiritual study, like reading, learning new things. There are people who have traveled the path before us. We don't have to do it alone. I'm constantly reading, constantly finding people who have gone where I haven't gone yet spiritually. Constantly doing that. And that way I don't have to figure it all out. Getting inspired all the time. And then, in all of that, we have to develop a spiritual consciousness. We have to live a spiritual life. We have to be in a spiritual consciousness. Choosing our thoughts consciously, choosing the vibration we're going to live in, choosing how we're going to show up every day. The spiritual consciousness brings us back to what I was talking about earlier in prayer. Prayer being a movement in consciousness. Not about flowery words, Although, as we really get into the feeling of the prayer, sometimes the words can be really flowery, right? We feel that vibration so strongly that the words come forth powerfully and beautifully and all of that. And that's wonderful. But that's just the out picturing of what is moving in consciousness. And I'm always reminded of this practitioner I heard about. Someone, my first minister in Science of Mind, talked about a practitioner that was regarded as one of the most powerful practitioners anywhere, and her whole prayer was, "Tain't so." That was her whole prayer. And why could that be? How could someone's whole prayer, who's a powerful practitioner, be "tain't so"? Because she had such a knowing and such a spiritual consciousness and such an awareness of truth that if you came to her and you said, "I got this going on," and you got your whole story, she'd say, "Tain't so." The truth is you are whole, perfect, and complete. The truth is that the power, the infinite power and presence of the divine is your life and is who you are. And you come, "No, I'm just little me. No, tain't so." That was her prayer because she had the spiritual consciousness. There was no convincing of her mind of something. You could not convince her with your story, so she did not need to go through a whole set of words. You come to her with your story, she knew the truth immediately. There was no movement needed because she was living there, and so she's instead of you inviting her into your world and your story, my story, she's inviting you into her world. She's inviting you into her consciousness of higher truth and reflecting back to you who you truly are. So I'm going to close this out because, wow, we could just keep going on this here. We could just really keep going on this idea. But I want to just close this out by inviting us, like, build your house on spiritual ground, because you are. That's the other thing we have no choice about. We have no choice about the fact and the truth that we are divine. You cannot change your divinity no matter what you do. And I've been thinking about this recently, how we make all kinds of mistakes and we do things, and sometimes maybe even we fall short, even ethically or morally, or all kinds of ways we can fall short. But in that greater sphere of your divinity, you can never, ever, ever fall short. You can never fall out of the grace and the love of the divine. Never, ever. Some of us hold ourselves in prisons for a long time. I did this 50 years ago, 30 years ago, 10 years ago. I did this thing. It was so terrible. And then we hold ourselves in a little prison forever. And the divine presence that you are and the divine presence that is the higher truth about you is not holding any of that. You were made, I was made in the image and likeness of the divine itself. It made us. It made you capable of all of the things that were even the missteps, the falling short. It made us, and that is part of our journey. It does not hold against us what it put in our nature. It put in our nature the possibility of falling short, as well as the possibility of rising up to our highest nature. It put all that in us as part of our journey. And none of that is held against us. None of that is held against us. So, building our house on a spiritual foundation is remembering our divinity. Let yourself off the hook today. You've suffered long enough. If you're suffering from something, you've suffered long enough. You've punished yourself enough. Let yourself go. Accept your goodness, that your nature is goodness. Everyone here. No one can be sitting here saying, okay, he's talking about everyone else but not me, because he doesn't know my story. No, accept your goodness. You are good. At your core, the core of who you are is good, and you cannot even change that. And nothing you have done ever has changed that. Goodness is who we are. Let's embrace that. Let's live from that spiritual consciousness. Let's learn from anything where we feel like we would have done it differently. But then remember our powerful ability to create anew and begin today creating anew. And then take this consciousness and change your life. I'll change my life. Change your community. I'll change my community. And go out with this powerful consciousness and this truth and not denying how powerful we are, and go change the world. Why not? What else do you have to do? Let's do it. Blessings. Thank you. Let's take that into prayer for a moment here. Thank you very much. And so in this moment, we just know that God is. We know that I am the divine in expression. Each one of us are the divine in expression. And we very simply join together today. And as I speak this, I invite you to internally speak with me. And make your own declaration right now. I declare I accept this new thing. I declare I accept this new reality for myself. I declare and accept this new reality in my family, in my community, in the world. Accept the power of our words this morning, of our consciousness, the power of us changing our minds, the power of us having a movement in consciousness, a movement in our being. And so we declare this morning a new day, a new moment where discord is dissolving and we are stepping into that greater sense of ourselves, whether it be in relationship, whether it be in our divine expression of creativity, our work, whether it be in our finances, whether it be in our health, that we are declaring a new day and we are listening in to what it is that is calling for shift, what it is that is calling for us to step into our greater nature, to live out our creed, to live out fully who we truly are. And so I know in doing so, I know that as we have joined together here today, powerfully knowing the truth about ourselves, that we move forward from here today just so powerfully being empowered in all areas of our lives. And so I am just so grateful for this sharing today, this opportunity to be together in spiritual community, to know truth together. And I'm so grateful for the results of that knowing of truth together, and so grateful for so much more. And I just release that immutable law, and I know it is done just as we have declared. I know that all is well. And I invite each one to ground it and accept it with me with the words, and so it is.